that caused their actions. I think the victim's argument was a very strong point of the negative team, which was not tackled by the affirmative. In the second speech, you should pay more attention to your time management, because you spend the whole time dealing with the rebuttal, but you totally forgot to really have the time to deal with their argument. The third speaker mentioned something about victims, but I don't think that was enough for you to successfully refute this argument. But finally, the job of the negative is first to counter-argument the arguments presented by the affirmative team. So although it was a strong argument, it wasn't enough for me to give the decision for you. So that's why my decision went to the affirmative.
Okay, I actually swayed toward part of the negative. Reasons being, when I looked at the end of it, which one actually comes up to the better solution, I felt that the affirmative, the only line that you ran, consistent as it is, was that you need to teach these people, teach the juveniles why they were wrong and how it is wrong. But I thought you needed to take one step beyond that and also show me why retribution is necessarily bad, especially since your negative side managed to do that. I thought in terms of engaging, they did a much better job with you because they engaged with all of the points that you guys brought up and had additional substantive points to show me why retribution necessarily can be a good thing when complemented with rehabilitation as well. I thought a lot of the analysis that was brought up from the negative side was largely ignored by the affirmative side, especially the part where they started talking about... right. The part where the negatives talked about how you cannot ignore a teenager's right to choose. When you give them certain liberties, like when you allow them to do things like take up part-time jobs and drive and etc. at certain ages, you cannot then just say only when a crime is committed that they are not able to make a conscious decision or that they are not mentally developed enough to make conscious decisions. I thought that was actually excellent analysis, and even though not carried on throughout, it really was something that you should have brought up because that you should have touched on because it contributed largely to the negative side of the case. And it was just ignored completely from the affirmative side. The other thing that I felt the way you guys tried to show that rehabilitation is needed is to remove the stigma that exists with someone who goes through retribution. Again, I thought the way the negative chose to talk about it was to say that stigma can sometimes be a good thing. When you let people know that someone may have committed crime at some point of their lives and it does not get in the way of them moving forward. I thought you guys just brushed it off. It's like you assumed that you won that argument and you brushed it off, which is not something that you should have done. You should have maybe spent a little bit of time telling us why stigma necessarily can be a bad thing, more than just it's hard for them to get jobs in the future. I don't know, things like how they're kids, how they don't deserve to deal with it, how it's not necessarily their fault, how they go through difficult childhoods, how so many things can have come into place. I just think that they spent a little bit more time developing that part. Even though it was your point, I felt that they took that point off from you guys. The second thing I thought was also when they started talking about how if a juvenile commits a heinous crime, they necessarily should be given a heinous punishment that is in line with that. I felt that you guys should have, moved away a little bit from this fluffy, comfortable idea of you need to teach them, you need to help them understand. Children are the future, teach them well and let them lead the way, that kind of stuff, right? You needed to engage with the stuff that was coming from your negative side. The other thing that I thought was an issue with you guys was that you guys ignored the point that they brought up about the victim's rights. I know you spoke about it, but they spoke about it in terms of not only the person that the crime was committed upon, but how it has an indirect and direct effect. And when you talk about victims' rights, it transcends to the victim's family, it transcends to public, transcends the place the person lives in as well, and why you necessarily need to remove this person who committed the crime off the streets so that it gives this person a sense of justice. Again, it gives the victims a sense of justice. And I felt again that you guys just completely ignored the point that came from the negative side and continued building on this fluffy idea of how you need to teach children and help them lead the way and stuff. So that's maybe my reasons as to why I gave it the